You can't imagine how much I appreciate being able to be here with you. I don't get the opportunity very long. As he said, most of you, only 2 or 3 of you knew me before I came. Hope more of you know me now. And I feel like that there are a couple of men sitting in this auditorium that could do a better job than me. But they've put me with the task, so I'm going to try to do it tonight. Jesus, the great physician. Jesus, the great physician. The healer of sin, the brokenhearted, relationships, churches, and now nations. When is a nation sick enough to need healing? Maybe we can get a little help from the Old Testament. Let's go over to Judges. Judges chapter 2. In Judges chapter 2, somebody get ready to read for me verses 7 through 9. Okay, got you. And 10 through 12. Who's ready to do that? Okay, got you. Good deal. Judges 7, chapter 2, 7 through 9.
So the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders who outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord which he had done for Israel. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, servant of the Lord, died. He was 110 years old. And they buried him in the borders of Inactivis at Timnath Heres, in the mountains of Ephraim, north side of Mount Kesh.
Now, can you imagine having Joshua there, who had been with Moses, who had seen the things that had happened coming out of Egypt, who had seen the things that had happened coming across the Red Sea, who had seen the things that had happened about their shoes not wearing out, about their clothes not tearing up, about their tents not wearing out, about how they were fed with manna, how they were fed with quail, how they had water when they needed it, how Moses brought water out of a rock. All of those, you can imagine Joshua here is a powerful leader. Powerful. At 110, he dies. What kind of effect did that have on the nation? Beginning chapter 2, verse 10.
When all that generation had been gathered to their fathers, another generation arose after them who did not know the Lord, nor the work which he had done for Israel.
One more verse, is it? Go through 12.
Oh, sorry. Then the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals. And they forsook the Lord God of their fathers who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. And they followed other gods from among the gods of the people who were all around them. And they bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger.
Oh, now. You see, after this powerful leader, Joshua, died at 110, it didn't take too terribly long for these people to forsake the Lord. To what did they turn when they forsook the Lord? To what did they turn? Idols. Idols. Now, hold these thoughts just a minute and let me ask you, what is an idol? We talked about that the other night. What is an idol? What is an idol?
Something you put before God.
Anything put before God, anything to substitute for God, anything that becomes more important than God. We don't have any, here in America, we don't have any idols, do we? Do we? Some of you are laughing. What do you mean? Who has a carved image at home? Anybody? We don't have any idols, do we? What do we put before God sometimes? Money? Jobs? Relationships? Pleasure? Entertainment? Oh, see, we've got lots of things that substitute for God. We got lots of things that we put in front of God. We got a lot of things that take God's place out of our minds and out of our lives. Idols. They forsook God for idols. That's not happening here in the United States, is it? Is it? Shake your head up and down. It's good exercise for the neck. It's also the right answer. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. People will not come to church on Sunday morning. Why? There may be a football game that's starting early. They'll not come to church on Sunday morning. Why? We're going to work over and make overtime. We'll not come to church on Sunday morning. Why? Because we're going to travel to Cincinnati to go to the park. We'll not come on Sunday morning. Over and over and over we find things that are substituting for God, things that are being put in place of God, things that take God's place, idols. They forsook God for what was it? Idols. They worshiped Baals. You see, they forsook God. They got to be nothing but evil. Now, if you look down, a few verses down, you'll find that Othniel was the first judge, and he fought the battles of the Lord, and he took the people, and he won battles for the Lord, and there was rest in the land for how long? 40 years. Then what happened? Then what happened? They forsook God again. Same thing happened. Say it again. Yeah. Same thing happened. They forsook God again. Then you had other judges that came along, and they would bring them up, and then they would forsake God and go away. Then they would bring them up, and then they would forsake God and go away. Then they would bring them up, and they would forsake God and go away. You see, it wasn't 100% of the people that forsook God. It wasn't 100%. Had it been, Othniel couldn't have been raised as a judge. It wasn't 100% that forsook God. If it hadn't been, Deborah couldn't have been raised up as a judge. It wasn't 100% that forsook God, because there was always someone, some family, somewhere that was able to be brought up and help lead them out. Well, now we've got something from the children of Israel to let us know how a nation gets sick. Maybe we can go again in the Old Testament and find Nineveh. Now, you Bible students here, JR, you be quiet. Mo, you be quiet. Where are we going to go to find Nineveh? Somebody said it. Jonah, good. Now, I've got great big organs. They just don't work. God supplied me with plenty of ear, but it just don't work. All right. When we read about Jonah, and when preachers preach about Jonah, and when little classes are talking about Jonah, what is the main thing they talk about? The big fish. Jonah being swallowed by the big fish. And how he lived in the big fish, and how the big fish, I hate to think of this, but he was part of the vomit. I just hate that process so badly. But he was vomited out. And then he had to go to Nineveh. And then when he went to Nineveh, he began to preach. We tell the story about Jonah and the big fish, and we forget to tell the story about Jonah preaching, and we forget to turn to chapter 3 of the book of Jonah. Go over there to the book of Jonah for me. We forget to, somebody read verse 3. We forget to talk about the process of Jonah going through the land and preaching. Who's got verse 3? You got it? Go ahead.
So Jonah rose and went to Nineveh according to the word of the Lord. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, 3 days' journey in breadth.
Nineveh was probably 7 or 8 miles around. You can't travel a long time and stop and preach all the time. It might have taken him 3 days to get those 7 or 8 miles to go around and preach. What was the result of his preaching? What did what did Jonah do when he got there and when he started the preaching? What was the result of it? Look at verse 5. Who's going to read verse 5 for me? Go ahead.
So the people of Nineveh believed God, proclaimed the fast, put on sackcloth, from the greatest to the least of them.
Okay. Now Jonah preached, and the people believed. Jonah professed, and the people believed. They were going to be destroyed in 40 days. Now, you just put yourself there. Somebody comes along here and says, Indy and the suburbs are going to be destroyed in 40 days if you don't turn to God. What do you think? Indy's going to be destroyed in 30 days if you don't turn to God. What do we do? What do we think? This guy's a kook. But you see, in those days, the prophets weren't kooks. Jonah wasn't the kook. Jonah was a prophet of God. Jonah was talking as a prophet of God. Who's going to read in verse 6 for me? The people as Jonah preached, the people believed. Who's going to read verse 6? Somebody. Go ahead.
When the word reached the king of Nineveh, he arose from his throne, laid aside his robe, and covered himself with sackcloth and sat on the ashes.
Now you see, Jonah preached to the individuals, and the individuals believed, and what did they do? They made the king know about it by what? Their actions. And the king found out about it, the king knew about it, and what did the king do? Well, he believed as well. Look at verses 7, 8, 9. Who wants to read 7, 8, 9 for me? Go ahead, good.
And he issued a proclamation and published through Nineveh by the decree of the king and his nobles, let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything. Let them not feed or drink water. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Let them call out mightily to God. Let everyone turn from his evil way and from the violence that is in his hands. Who knows, God may turn and relent and turn from his fierce anger so that we may not perish.
Wouldn't you love to have a leader like that today? Wouldn't it be good? Wouldn't it be good? If we had a leader like that that would take that position and say that if everybody followed God, that God might relent. Verse 10. Who will read verse 10 for me real quickly? Go ahead.
But the Lord said, you have had pity on the plant for which you have not labored, nor made it grow, which came up in a night.
No, you're not in chapter 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, chapter 3, excuse me.
Then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and God relented from the disaster that he had said he would bring upon them, and he did not do it.
Now, we don't know that 100% of Nineveh repented. But we do know that Jonah spent time there. 3 days. We do know that Jonah, as he spent his time the 3 days, that he preached to them. We do know that as he preached to them, they accepted his word. We do know that they repented. We do know as their repentance was, they changed their heart. They changed their mind. They changed their life. They changed their living. And they let the king know about it. And the king made this proclamation. And all the nation was to, everybody was, whether they believed it or not, everybody was to wear sackcloth. Now, I used to wear sackcloth, but it was feed sacks. My mother made shirts out of them. I didn't have a brand new store-bought shirt until I was in the 9th grade. My grandpa Chin bought it for me at Christmas. He bought the rest of them handkerchiefs. Was I his favorite grandson? I used to go and mow his yard. I used to go and listen to him. I used to go and help him. I went to the barn one time with 15 shoats, and we wrung them and marked them. That's the grandpa that had one eye and one ear. That was my first store-bought shirt. Oh, I wasn't dirty. No. I was raised without money. We weren't poor. I was just raised without money. I had clean feed sack shirts. I had clean blue jeans. Well, they might have to wash them today and I'd wear them again tomorrow, but we had clean blue jeans. Now, not everybody might have been in belief, but everybody was in sackcloth. This was like burlap sackcloth. This was rough. This was not comfortable. The king said, let everybody fail to eat, everybody fail to drink, even the animals. Nobody eats, nobody drinks, not the animals. We're going to make it so that perhaps God will see us and change his mind. They did. He did. They did. He did. Maybe we can learn something from Rome. Turn to Romans chapter 1. We're going to begin in Romans chapter 1. I want somebody to read verses 18 through 23. Somebody that hadn't read, pop your finger up. Charles?
For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who hold the truth in unrighteousness. Because that which may be known of God is made known in them, for God has showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, but they are without excuse. Because that, when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves.
Now, was that all up there? Verse 23?
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to think about a little bit what Charles read there. That was a long reading. But the wrath of God was revealed from heaven on all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who suppress the truth in unrighteousness, because they may be known of God is manifest in them. Because what may be known of God is manifest in them. Now, I asked Cachet today, I was talking to him, I asked him, let's just say that you were walking through a path in the woods. And you stumbled and you tripped. And you look back and you brushed away the things, and there was something made of tube. And the front part of it, or one part of it, had a fork, and there was a round thing in that fork, and there was wires from the middle to the outside, and there was rubber on that thing, and it would roll, it would spin. And on the back, there was another one of those round things with wire from the outside to the inside, and there was a chain on it, and it went to a thing with pedals. And you could turn those pedals, and that round thing would spin. Reckon it just happened? You think it just happened? Was that something that just the earthquake, the last earthquake, just put there? Reckon? Shake your head left to right. You know it's the right answer. No, it didn't just happen. You'd pick that thing up and rub it off and see what, maybe swing? You knew it was a bicycle, didn't you? Why would anybody think it just happened? Now, while you're there looking at that bicycle, a little squirrel scampers across the path and up a tree. Why would you think that the bicycle had to have a designer and that squirrel didn't? It had to have a designer too, didn't it? It had to be designed. Who designed it? You see, that's why the Romans were without excuse. We can see the power of God manifest in the creation that He created. We can see that the power of God is there. The power of God who spoke these things into existence. God's mighty power can be shown in the lightning storms that happen. Just this week we've had some. God's mighty power can be shown that, as JR was saying the other day to me, it's amazing there's just no new water being created. But yet the rivers run all the time. How does that happen? Why doesn't the ocean run over? God's magnificent hand is there. God's magnificent power. We are without excuse. When we look at the mighty creation of God, we are without excuse. And those Romans were without excuse. They had no excuse not thinking. They had no excuse changing the image of God from God to some kind of an image of a bird or an animal or something of that nature. Verses 24 and 25. Who will read that quickly? Go ahead.
Therefore God gave them over in their lusts of their heart to impurity, that their bodies might be dishonored among them. For they exchanged the truth of God for a lie, and worship and serve the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen.
When you hear and see on the radio or the TV, hear and see, I got that right order, didn't I? When you hear and see people wanting to give the same powers to animals as to humans, want to give the same protection to animals as to humans, what have they done? They're starting to worship the Creator. The created instead of the Creator. They're starting to worship those things that God had created instead of the Creator who made them. They're trying to take God out. When I was in elementary school, we had to learn a memory verse. In the 8th grade, my mother's cousin, Carl Brown, was my 8th grade teacher, and Carl would tell us we had to learn. And he would not start always in the same place, so you couldn't predict where you were. He might start with the B's, he might start with the S's, he might start with the A's, he might start with the J's, and we had to have a memory verse. There was 2 scoundrel boys in that class that always tried to get in front of the other one so that when that time came for them, their memory verse was Jesus wept. You got that one down, Pat, huh? All right. Could I do that now in school? Could I do that now? Shake your head left or right, I'd be fired. I'd be fired. It's a wonder I got to do what I did. I retired in '98. I got to speak at the graduation exercise for my daughter. I got to speak as a minister from the Church of Christ and was introduced as such. You think I would be now? As a teacher there, you think I would be now? To be able to speak and speak about God and to speak about the things of God's creation, do you think I'd be able to do that now? Because people are trying to eradicate God, not only from children, but from everybody. You see, they're trying to remove God, aren't they? They're changing the magnificence of God into nothing. Verses 26 and 27. Okay, good deal.
For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions, for even the women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burning in their lust one for another, men with men committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. I
really can't make that any plainer than what it is. Simply put, it was homosexuality. When they left God out, then they left God's pattern out. When they left God out, they left God's design out. When they left God out, they left morality out. When they left God out, they left everything out. And men with men working that which is unseemly. Women with women. All it was about was sexual gratification. That's all it was about. We must. Ezekiel 33. We must teach those who need to be taught. Grandchildren, we got grandpas and grandmas in here. Children, we got mamas and daddies in here. Children to be, we've got young adults in here that are going to be married. Children to be, we've got young married adults in here that don't have children yet. You must teach your children correctly. You must. The nation is becoming sick. Why is it becoming sick? Sin. A part of the sin that it's becoming sick about is homosexuality, immoral sexuality, extramarital sexuality, every kind that you can imagine, pornographic sexuality, every kind that you can imagine. We must be plain. We must be accurate. We must show them what is wrong. Verses 28 through 32. Who? Somebody that hadn't read. Pop a pinky for me. Go ahead.
Even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind, to do those things which are not fitting. Being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, knowing the righteous judgment of God. Those who practice such things are deserving of death. Not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice things.
Can you find a better list of sin? When they left God out, when they took God away from their minds, He gave them over. As they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind. You have people that you've worked with, neighbors, family, that have taken God away from themselves, taken God out of themselves, put this debased mind into their being. Now, not only this, but look, they became of a debased mind. Being filled with unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder. What did we hear about happening night before last? A man went in and killed 9. He came into a place like this and killed 9. Murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness, whisperers, backbiters. Can you find a better list? Haters of God, violent, proud. When you leave God out, when you remove God, you give Satan the whole place. He has it all. You know how to get all the air out of a plastic bag? Fill it up with water. You know how to get Satan out of your mind? Fill it up with God. Fill it up with God. Do you know how to fill it up with God? Read the book that's in your lap. Read the book. Now, I'd like to ask you to raise your hand if you read the Bible once every year. But I won't. Some of you do. Some of you say, "Oh, Brother Berryman, I don't have time for that. I just don't." You don't have time for that? I work 40 to 46 hours a week. I drive 12 to 14 hours a week. I try to read the Bible at least once a year. Well, Brother Berryman, that's just so much. That's just so much. I don't know how you expect me to do that. If you take the number of pages in this book, JR, and you divide it by 3, you get 365. That means if you read 3 pages every day, or average 3 pages every day, at the end of the year, you can say, "I've read this whole book," because you'll be at the end of Revelation. But Brother Berryman, I just don't have time. I just don't have time to read every day. Okay, read twice on Saturday. Read 3 times on Sunday afternoon. If you want all the air out of the bag, fill it up with water. If you want all the Satan out of your mind, fill it up with God. Fill it up with the Bible. A famous denominational preacher one time said something very good. He said, "When I open my Bible, God opens His mouth." When I read, God speaks to me. When I open my Bible, whoops, there went my marker where it was. I'll have to find it again. Maybe I'll just have to read more. When I open my Bible, God opens His mouth and He begins to speak to me. How will this nation ever cease to be ready to be destroyed? Where will it turn? Where will it turn? Where? God. And in the essence of our VBS, to the great physician. To the great physician. Jesus, the healer of nations. Jesus, the healer of nations. What will He do? Will He cause the nation to just confess a sin? We have to do it a piece at a time. Remember Jonah? What did he do? He had 3 days. He went through this large city, Nineveh. And what was he doing? Preaching to individuals. What did he get done? Individuals believed. What happened? the whole of the nation had enough to believe that the king believed. What happened? The king said, everybody wear sackcloth. Don't anybody eat, don't anybody drink, not even the animals. What was the result? God saw. They did. God didn't destroy them. Let's go back to Rome. Not only the city of Rome, but the entire nation of Rome. They were warned. Paul warned them. Remember Ezekiel 33? When the watchman warned, and they didn't do, their blood was on themselves. When God warned through Paul, and they responded, they were saved. What happened to the city, the nation of Rome? A few years later, the most powerful power in all of the world at the time was destroyed. We like to say that the United States is the most powerful power in all the world. What could happen in a few years? It could be destroyed. Now, I have a question to ask. What if we're not successful in reaching out and teaching? What if we don't get enough people to cause the nation to not be destroyed? What does that mean about you? What does that mean about you? Can you be saved anyway? Yes, you can. What does that mean about you? Can you be saved anyway? Yes, you can. What does that mean about you? Can you be saved anyway? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You? Yes, you can. You? Yes, you can. You? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We can be saved by whom? The great physician. The great physician. And the great physician has a prescription. Remember? The great physician has a prescription. Now, I've used only one prescription every time this week. And I've asked people to help with that. So I'm going to ask individuals to help me with one piece, and then I want to be nervy enough to ask one or two or maybe three people to give the entire prescription by themselves. No, I'm not going to ask Mo. I'm not going to ask JR. I'm not going to ask their wives. You know who I really, really, really want to have answer that for me? Is somebody that never has before. I'll be so pleased. I'll be so proud of you. I'll be so glad to hear it. Now let's remind everybody, what's the first step? Hearing. 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 What's the verse? Romans 10, 13 through 17. What's the next step? Believing. What's the verse? Romans 10, 10. What's the next step? Confession. I know preachers don't put that in there, but I'm not sure that they know that repentance has to come before confession. Because it's all together the prescription. Everything is there in the prescription. If you are going to repent, you've got to know who you're going to repent to and what you're going to repent from. What do you confess? Your sins? Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. Upon that hearing, upon that believing, upon that repenting, upon that confession, what's the next step? Being baptized, baptism. What's the verses? Now I know I've used a long set, but you can pick out some of the short ones. But when you're teaching somebody, if you'll go to these, Acts what? Acts 8?
46 to 40.
26 to 40. If you'll go there, you can teach them that when you teach about Jesus Christ, you have to teach about what? You have to teach about baptism. It's just not something you've picked out of the air. It's there. You have to teach about baptism. And then what's step number 6? Be faithful unto death. Yes. To be faithful. What's the verse? Revelation 2:10.
Romans 6:1-5.
Romans 6:1-5. And when you go Romans 6:1-5, you can show them, shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? No, he says. Now then, we've got about 8 minutes. I've got about 3 until the buzzer rings. Buzzers don't ring, do they? Buzzers buzz. Now, somebody that's never done that before, if you're ready, even if you have to use your nose, if you've never sat across a table with a glass of tea or a cup of coffee and a non-Christian on the other side, this time you're ready. You've studied it this week. You've studied the great physician, and you've studied his prescription. Somebody who's ready, that's never done that before, can you give me all 6 steps? Will you do it for me? Okay. Ready.
Read it every day.
Okay. Okay. That's a step that has to be taken. Who can give me the whole prescription? Can you do it? Yeah. Okay.
Here, Romans chapter 10, verses 13 through 17. And believe Romans 10, verse 10. Then you confess Romans 10, verse 9. Repent, Acts 17:30. And be baptized, that's Acts 8, 26 through 40. And then the faith and the death. Romans 6:1-5, or Revelation 2:10.
Okay. Somebody else. That was good. Very good. Somebody else. Can anybody else do it for me? Anybody? Okay. Good. Great.
Here, Romans 10, 13 through 17.
Yes.
Believe Romans 10, 10.
Yes.
Confess Romans 10, 9 through 10. Repent, Acts 17:30. Baptism, which is highlighted in Acts chapter 8, 26 through 40 as well. And then the faith in Revelation 2:10.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Anybody else that hasn't done it before? Can do it? Can you do it? Okay, I'm ready.
Here, Romans 10, 13 through 17.
Yeah, don't be nervous. You're all right.
Believe Romans 10:10. Confess Romans 10:9. Repent, Acts 17:30. Be baptized, Acts 2:38.
Great.
Revelations 2:10.
Great. Isn't that good? You see, we've been successful because we've preached the truth. Now, you will have been successful if you've learned more of the truth. If you've learned to apply it, you have been successful. If you've learned to take it into your life, you have been successful. I'm not pretending that JR and the elders here haven't taught you. I know they have. I'm not pretending that I've done a better job than they have. No, I'm not pretending that at all. But I am insisting that when you learn, you take it in. And when you take it in, you rehearse it. The realtors will tell you that the 3 most important parts of selling a house is location, location, location. Educators ought to say that the 3 most important parts about education is repetition, repetition, and then repetition. And when you hear it and take it in and rehash it in your mind, it will stay. Now, in Ezekiel 33, verses 7, 8, and 9. Who is responsible for the neighbor that doesn't know about God and doesn't know about salvation? Who is responsible? We are. We are. If we don't warn, their blood will be on our head. If we don't warn, their blood will be on our head. If we warn and they refuse, their blood is on their own head. So don't give it to them in such a way as that they can refuse you quickly. Don't give it in a way of hatefulness. Don't walk up, the first thing you do is kick them real good in the shins and say, "You're going to hell if you don't listen to me." Go to them lovingly, respectfully, and teach them the Word of God and lead them back to Him. I so thank you for letting me come. I know you didn't know me when J.R. announced that he was going to invite me. And I'm so thankful you didn't say, "Well, get a big name, J.R., so we can learn something." I don't know that I've taught you much, but you've taught me to love you. And I do. Thank you for letting me come into your life for a while. This is a glad day. I get to drive part of the way home, and I get to see Connie Joe tomorrow. I get to go talk to my son tomorrow at about 1 o'clock to 1:30, and I hope that'll be profitable. I know your prayers have helped. I know they've helped. Many of you have said, took me by the hand, pulled me aside and said, "I understand what you're going through, and I know your prayers have helped." I love you, and I love these two that have kept me and put up with me all week, even though J.R. says I'm the one who put corny in corny jokes. Thank you so much. The buzzer will buzz again in just a couple of seconds, or a couple of minutes here.